about to start our lecture. So the course, as you know, is Android development, advanced Android development. And okay, let me just confirm I maximized this into slideshow mode. You can still see my presentation, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Professor.
So that's my name there. Most of you know me. There are a few new students for their benefit. I'll give a brief introduction in a moment. So this is from your course outline that the college gives you. And the description reads, the Android operating system has numerous features that are used to control the advanced hardware aspects of the device. Students will develop more robust applications while gaining experience with extended features such as libraries, application widgets, sensors, geolocation, and external device communications. So this is basically the gist of it. This is what you're going to learn and more. And some of these topics we may have talked about in the course last semester. We will repeat some of those to reinforce. And there's a lot of things that you will be doing again, which we did last time, which is basically the initial part of the process, how to create a new application and how to build interfaces. All of that will get repeated. So you will get a lot more experience with that. For some reason, I can't advance. Okay. So a little bit about me for the benefit of those who are not in the class last semester. I have a PhD in engineering from the University of Manchester, UK, and I also have bachelor's and master's degrees from the Indian Institute of Technology in Bombay. And for the past 20 years, I have been running a tech venture, an e-learning venture. I'm the co-founder and also the CTO of that venture. Last year, I decided that I wanted to sort of do something different and on a very limited basis. So I reached out to your associate dean at the college and said, I would be happy to teach a course or two. And thankfully for me, they gave me this opportunity, and I've been really enjoying it because this is one of the things I enjoy, which is teaching and mentoring. In my own company, I had this same opportunity for the past 20 years. So it is wonderful, and I'm happy to have all of you here. So before we move on, I would like you to give you the opportunity. If we were in a physical class, you would see who else is there, your colleagues. We are in an online class. So to make it a little bit more interactive, more friendly, what I would like to do is I would like to open the floor for you to say something, a few words to your classmates. Many of you know each other. Some of you are from the previous cohort, but in any case, this is an opportunity for you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about yourself and maybe mention things related to the course also, like what it is that you enjoy most about this entire process of app development, and if you have any favorite tools, etc. And feel free to turn on your camera for this brief period. It's up to you, it's optional. So I will let you guys talk for a few minutes. So the way we are going to do it is I have the list of participants here. I'm going to call out your name. You will unmute yourself. If you want to turn on your camera, you will do that. People will see you. And then speak, for maybe up to a minute. Let's not make it too long. So that's all of you who are present. Close this. And a couple of things, what I'm going to do is, let me just move this slide up so we go to this one. Okay. So because I can't see your expressions in a live class when you're all in front of me, I would be able to tell if there was, if something was not clear just from the expressions, that feedback is missing. So we have to make up for that. So how are we going to do that? One is I'm going to ask you to let me know if I am moving too fast. There are things that may be, obvious to me, for example. I've been doing it for so long, but it may be good if I were to slow down and explain a bit more. So feel free to ask me to slow down. The way you would do it is, what we will do is to avoid, sometimes there is background noises and stuff. So to avoid disturbance from that, what we will do is there is an option. I don't see it here. It used to be here, which is to basically mute everyone, all the participants in the call. So what that does is that other than myself, everyone will be on mute. So if you need to speak, if you need to catch my attention, the best thing would be there are two things. I think there is a feature to raise your hand. Do you guys see it? I don't see it because I am the host. So there is raise your hand, but probably a better one is to type a message in chat. So all WebEx meetings have a chat which you can open by clicking the chat button. And then you can type a message. I just typed the testing message, it went to everyone. Now, what happens is that when I'm talking, I may not have this chat window open and I may not see it. So I'm going to ask one of you to volunteer to monitor the chat. And one of you, please unmute yourself and volunteer.
Yeah, I will.
Harry has volunteered to monitor the chat. So when you type something in the chat, Harry will interrupt me, and we can just take it from there. We'll see. We'll deal with whatever the question is. And I need somebody to double check with me. Aniket, you are pretty good at that. Can I ask you to just remind me every time to make sure that I'm recording the lecture?
Yeah, sure, Professor.
This you need to do when we start and when we take a break, after the break also.
Yeah,
Okay?
no worries. I can.
Good. So that will make the class, it will allow us to overcome some of the shortcomings of this online format. And the lecture recordings, we will record each and every lecture, so you will have the option and it takes about, so the recording in WebEx, when we start it like this, after the lecture ends, it takes the background system to about 24 hours to process the recording. So it doesn't become available even to me until that is done. So the next day is when I will get the recording and I'll make it available to you, usually as a YouTube video. I'll share the link. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next slide. So how will we approach this subject of advanced Android development? So those of you who attended the lecture last semester, we are going to continue doing the same. It will be very hands-on. So I won't be lecturing abstract topics at you and expect you to remember and use it when needed. Instead of that, we'll just use everything that we need to learn. So we'll create apps and we'll apply new topics as we do that. So the philosophy, I call it learning through doing. So everything that you need to learn, you will practice. And that sometimes you'll do it more than once. This course, I kind of look at it as a random walk through the mobile app development landscape, meaning there are so many things, so many topics that are interconnected. Some of them are not even in your course outline or syllabus, but we will touch upon them. And in general, the process itself, not specifically to Android, in general, the app development process, and more broadly speaking, software development process. We'll talk about various things. I see this as an opportunity also to share some of the experience I have had, from practical situations, and ultimately talk a little bit about what the good practices are when you're working in such on such an endeavor, an environment like this, something that will be useful to you in your workplace. Eventually, when you graduate, some of you, maybe all of you, will want to work in this field. So that those kind of things, what are the good practices? They'll set you up for a better experience in your work. And ultimately, one of the things that you will get an insight into is how to approach an app development task from the beginning. Given a problem, maybe even how to identify a problem, then how to design, what it involves in designing before even you write your first line of code, what is needed, and then the implementation itself, the coding, and then what follows it, in the sense, what do you do once the app is packaged? How do you send it out for testing? How do you make it available to the public? All of that we will talk about. So right now, the first thing I want to do is I want to review the syllabus with you. So let's see if I can open the Blackboard shell. So this is your course shell. Things I've talked. Okay. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
Professor. Now
Professor.
we can.
Okay, so I don't know why it's telling me I'm not connected to the internet. Anyway, I am connected. So if you click on this online classroom, you will get the link. So if you click this link, it will open WebEx and it will bring you to the class. You can either bookmark it, the link in yours, or whichever way you feel most comfortable. But this is one option. You go into Blackboard, online classroom will bring you here. And we have some other sections here. One of them is weekly learning. I may use this, or I may create a folder called lecture recordings and put all the recordings, links to all the recordings there. So it will all be in one place. If you need to email me, you can go into faculty information and my email address is there. And course information is where you have some supplementary stuff and some required stuff. So for example, this is your course outline. This is, okay, I have it here. I'm just going to open it locally. Okay, now how do I hide this thing? Okay, so this here is your course outline. This is what was on my first slide. But these are the topics that, broadly speaking, we need to cover. We'll be going over all of that. And this is what the college gives us, the professors, to make sure that we cover all of this. That's your outline, and I'm going to get your syllabus up, and this is how we are going to do it. And this is the document you will find in Blackboard. So as it is normal in today's day and age, there is no textbook. These things change way too fast for us to follow any textbook. So we'll just be referring to online documentation and other places as needed. Stack Overflow. Many of you probably already use that all the time. That's one of the things. And in general, we'll follow, some uh, good documentation from the internet. These are the topics we will cover one by one. So today's lecture, we will start with what are called app widgets. And then, these different topics. And this order is not sacrosanct. I may change this. I may move some of these up and move some others down, depending upon what makes sense in terms of the process we are in. And sometimes also because some of you may have a need for some topic that is slated, let's say notifications, it says week 9 and 10. But notifications are a very integral part of mobile apps. So we may just do it, sooner instead of waiting for the end of the course. This is the evaluation scheme. We will have quizzes and in-class app development assignments as we had last time, last semester also. This carries 30% weight. There will be one or two exams, a midterm and a final. This will again be a programming assignment, and it will be a take-home exam in the sense, you'll do it on your own time. We'll give you some timeline, some deadlines, and you'll follow that. Then there is a group project, and this group project, you're welcome to work with another person, up to two students per group. This will be due in the last week, and this carries a weightage of 50%. So this makes the bulk of the weightage. This is so far, this is your syllabus. There are some other things you will see here in the course information, and this all of these other things, every course you will have it and it will be the same. Any questions so far?
No, Professor.
For group project, when uh, like are you gonna give us any guidelines on what should be included in the group project so we can start as soon as possible rather than waiting all the way till the end?
Very good question, Shahrukh. I remember you had brought it up towards the end of our previous course. So within this lecture itself, I have at the end, I will talk about group project. You see here. So we'll do it at the end of this lecture, and this lecture might spill over into the next class. So at that point, we will do it. So we won't wait for the end. And I think even in the course syllabus, I probably have something about group projects. Yeah. So we'll talk about group project expectations, requirements, and you guys can then, let's say we'll talk about it next class. So from next class onwards, you can start thinking about what it is that you're going to do. You can even start developing it and start including all these topics as we cover them if you need them in your app.
Awesome.
Ultimately, it is going to be the final thing is the submission, which is the last week, and that's when we'll have your group project and presentations. You will have an opportunity to show off your work to all your classmates. Okay. So this is today's topic.
Excuse me, sir. There's a question
Oh,
in the
sorry.
chat room.
Who has a question?
Uh,
Harry?
Michelle,
Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Go ahead.
I just wanted to know if you'll be posting the PowerPoint or if it already is posted in Blackboard.
I don't post my presentations. I just give the entire lecture as a video.
Oh, okay.
So you have access to the entire lecture. I won't be posting PowerPoints.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So app widgets, let's see. What is an app widget? Can anyone tell me what an app widget is? Have any of you used app widgets on your phones?
I suppose app widgets are the small applications that you can use on your apps. Like I know on iOS, maybe if you go to your leftmost screen, there are sections that tell you your screen time, and they have like the small information about the app. There's a news app, a news widget that shows you highlighted news on iPhone, and you can select the top 5 news. You can get the weather widget. So I think those are the widgets that gives like some information about the app.
Yes, exactly. So app widgets are, you know, for example, oops, I'll show you in the emulator here. Okay. So for example, this time here, this is a widget. I can move it around. It is not an app in itself, in the sense that it is not the icon. Like, these are the app icons, right? If I click on Chrome, it just shows me an icon. It will open Chrome. But these widgets, they give us extra information. So this is my calendar widget. It's telling me today I have no event schedule. If I had events, any events, it would show them right here. And I would be able to interact with it. For example, I'd be able to touch it and open an event, any one of those. The one that is probably most popular is the weather widget. Many people have it on their screen. It shows the current temperature of wherever they are. So I know, I'm sure that most of you have used these. Sometimes it's just, the nomenclature is different. So the way you add an app widget is, if I press and hold in Android, any blank area in your home screen, it will give you options. You change the wallpaper, and there's one called widgets. And this shows you what are the widgets available. For example, Chrome. You could have a widget that shows just like a search bar or your bookmarks. Calendar widget that I have on the home screen there. The clock, I have the clock as well. Like this, you have your WhatsApp widget, which will show you the recent chats, or your Gmail widget. So now this is what we want to see, how to develop something like this. Now you will see that one thing about all these widgets is that there is an app in the background. So these are like snippets. I should not call it snippets, because in Android, snippets means something else. These are like a mini version of your app with limited functionality and features that can reside on the home screen. That is what an app widget is, like this. And we saw some of the examples also. So what happens? There are different types of widgets. Let's see what they are. So these are some examples of widgets. For example, the weather, something like a photo gallery could be a widget, Chrome, email, all this. And these come under different categories. Some of them are information widgets, which basically show you a certain piece of, like, for example, what the temperature is, what the weather is like, where you are, etc. Weather. Date and time is another example of this type of widget. Some other examples could include, sports scores. If you follow the NBA, you could have an NBA. Well, right now there is no scores to follow, but when there is, you can have it on your home screen and it will tell you what's going on. Or the stock market, all these things come under information widgets. The next is collection widgets. These is not just a single piece of information, but a collection which changes. It's on a rolling basis. So if this here shows the Gmail widget, which basically is showing you your most recent activity in Gmail. And this is like opening the Gmail app, but you are just seeing a more limited version. Even shows you if there are unread messages and read messages. Most of the information you will get in the Gmail app, including an option to start a new email. But the other other functionality you may have, for example, in the Gmail app, you can swipe a message from right to left or left to right and get some actions to perform. You can archive a message. Here, that won't happen, because when you swipe anything, that swipe is first heard by the home screen, and its default behavior is to swipe the screen. So it won't work on the widget. It will just take the screen and swipe it. So that those are some, we'll talk about it a little bit later as well. So these are collection widgets, control and hybrid widgets, meaning what happens is these things allow you to do something without actually opening an app that is doing it. So like your music app, you could have a widget which does play pause from the home screen without having to open the app, that kind of thing. And it also shows you, so it is a combination. It shows you what song is playing and maybe also what is next, all those things you could build. So this is like a hybrid widget, which also allows you to control things. Any questions so far? Okay. So we already said this, that widgets are not full apps. They have limitations, and these are some of the limitations. So a widget is always hosted inside another app or on the home screen. So this here, home screen, is also called a launcher in Android. And a launcher has the ability to take app widgets and display them. So there is always like a host where this is displayed. So that's how the widgets work. Gestures, they only support a touch and a vertical swipe. These are the only two gestures you will find your widgets will support. Vertical swipe to scroll within it, and a touch to invoke something. But the other gestures, for example, you can't zoom in, or the other things you're used to doing inside an app won't work in a widget, because those gestures, whichever is the host app, be it the launcher or maybe your own app, you have an app that shows all the widgets. So those things already, the other gestures are used up by them to do other things. So the widgets will only support these limited amount of actions. And there are views and layouts that rely on other gestures. Those views and layouts cannot be used in the widget. So the widgets also place a limitation on what you can use inside a widget. So, there is a basically list of components that can be used in a widget, and you can find it. Android has some good documentation on widgets. So you'll see that a lot of these things I have used already. Widgets. Okay, I want to find the list of things you can show in a widget and you cannot. So these are the things that a widget will allow you to have. Button, text view, etc. But there are all the other components that are available in Android. They have, there is a much more broader range of things which you won't be able to use. So these are things you will, find out as you're building a widget. So that's the lecturing part. I said I wasn't going to talk at you about abstract things, but I did for a few minutes. Now what we are going to do is we're going to make a widget of our own, and we'll use a stack view. And this is a sample of what we are going to do. We are going to do a widget, make a widget that shows these images. And the way it works is you can swipe them one by one, and one image will go away and the other will come up. We already saw that we are allowed vertical swipes. So here you will do a vertical swipe and you can scroll through a bunch of images. So imagine that this is like, let's say you have a photo gallery, your own photo gallery or a collection of images. Your app could have a collection of images, and you now want to make it available as a widget. So for example, let's say somebody likes, you know, pictures of dogs, cute dogs. They could have an app that is a collection of dog pictures and a widget that shows this. So you always have a cute dog, one or more, and you can swipe through them. Or, there are people who are fans. You're a fan of a sports personality, a movie actor or actress. You could make an app that has pictures of that person and you could swipe them. just some examples. So that's the kind of place where you would use this. And let's get started. So the way it works is before you can create a widget, you need to have an app, right? So widgets can only be created inside an app, and that app is what makes it available to the system. The widget becomes available for placing in it. So you have two choices here. You can start a new project in Android, or you can open a project that you have created previously. It's up to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new project and then add a widget to it. Okay. So, and for those of you who did not take the course last semester, this is how I like to do it. I want you to, every app you create, I want you to use your initials or your first name, and then the name I suggest as the name of the app, name of your project. So what this does is it allows me to differentiate if I will ask you to submit many of your apps. So I want to be able to tell when I look at the file name, I want to be able to tell whose app it is. So that's what you will do. You will use your initials or your name. Sometimes initials can have a conflict. So maybe just go with your first name. Okay. So let's do this. Let's get started. So we will go to Android Studio. I'm going to close this project that I have open here. And I'm going to start a new project, okay? So in Android Studio, you will see this menu. Start a new project, and it will give you options as to what type of project. And you will see that app widget is not a type of project. So you basically have to put it inside an app. So if you're creating a new project, follow this process that I'm doing here. Otherwise, use one of your own previous projects, and you may then, or if you already have an app where you think a widget would make a lot of sense, use that. So you can piggyback on it and add a widget. Like I'll give you an example, the tic-tac-toe app we did last semester, you could add a widget to that and show the most recent games. And touching any of the games would replay the game. Okay. So this is what we'll do. We'll create a new app, an empty activity app. We'll go with next. And the name of the app, I'm going to say Android allows us nice spaces here. You could go with that. So this is going to be the name. You can use your first name and widget demo. And some of these things we have talked about before. This language we'll use as Java. Package name, whatever it gives, I'm just going to leave it as default. But this is where you would have to be more careful if you are developing an app that you plan to submit to the App Store. You will want to use something customized here instead of using com.example, because this is unique to the App Store. So let's say you had a company, ABC App Development. So you might have com.abc app development dot the name of this is automatically filled the third part. It's made up of whatever is here, but you will change the package name. That way, when you submit to the store, you have the unique handle. Okay. And this minimum SDK is decides how many devices your app will run on. So if you're using new features that were not available in, let's say right now it's default, it's giving me ice cream sandwich, which was API 15. And it says your app will run on approximately 100% of the devices. If I choose the latest, well, R is still in preview, let's go with Q. So it's telling me that only 8% of the devices it will run on. I don't want that. Unless I'm doing something that is only available in Q, I don't want that. So we'll just go with its own suggestion of API 15 and we'll say finish. So this will create a new app for us. And we'll let it finish. It has a build manager called Gradle, and it organizes the files for us in a way that is more friendly than the default orientation of Studio, which is this project. So it recognizes this as an Android app, and it gives us, like manifests are here, Java classes are here, and all the resources are here. So what this did right now is it created an app for us, an empty app, which all it does is it says hello world. So if you go into the layout and you preview it, you will see it says hello world in the middle. I'm going to run this app in my emulator here, and we will see that all this app does is it says hello world. It has no other functionality, which is fine. What we want to do today is focus on app widgets. So we'll add a widget to this. And that's why I said you could use an app that you already have. Maybe you have an app, maybe you want to show a result from whatever your app is on the widget. So this is, it opened the app in the emulator. All it does is says hello world. So far, so good. Now, how do we add a widget to this app? So right now we only have a class main activity, which really does nothing except for inflating the layout that we saw here. So to add a widget, what we'll do is we'll go to File, New, and you will see there is an option to add a widget. There's only one choice here, which is App Widget. So I want you guys to do that. Go to File, New, Widget, and App Widget. Okay, if anybody is not able to find this, sometimes unless you are in the right place in the project navigator, this file new menu doesn't show everything. So if you are having that kind of a difficulty, please say so in the chat. Otherwise, go ahead and click App Widget. So now we need to give a name to the class. So I'm just going, instead of new, I'm going to say Demo App Widget. And these are the options it gives where the app widget can be placed. So you can say home screen, key guard. Home screen and key guard. These are the two options. Okay, I'll leave it to you to find out what key guard does. Make a note of that and find out what this option for key guard is. We'll use home screen only. So your app widget will be, you will be able to add it on the home screen. And now you have a choice whether you want the user to be able to resize the widget. So some widgets you can choose. So right now it is says 1 by 1, right? Let's make it 3 by 3 by default. So this is the default size of your widget. And when it is resizable horizontally and vertically, the user can actually drag and increase the size of the widget or decrease it. This being the minimum 3 by 3. Won't go below this. And Java is the language again. We'll say finish now. And we'll give it a few seconds. Giving me an error, which it should not because the file is already there. See, it is complaining, but you will see these red underlines wherever the error is. So if your file in the navigator, it is showing me that there is a problem with this demo app widget.java. And the problem is that it is not able to find the layout file called demo app widget. But demo app widget is here. So this is an Android problem. It's a bug in Android. What we will do is we'll try to fix it. We'll just say clean project and see if it figures it out. It'll build finished, and it did not. Let's try rebuild project. Build successful in spite of the error. This can happen. This has happened to me before. There is actually no problem with the app, but it is showing an issue. We'll just ignore it and we'll continue our work. I'm going to run this app and you will see that it runs in the emulator. It is coming up. It just came up. Now, what changed? We've added a widget, right? Let's see if we can find that widget in the list of widgets. So if you're using the emulator, do this in the emulator. If you're using your connected device, do it there. Press and hold in an empty area on your home screen and go to widgets. And you should see that the widget, that the app you just created, right? The name of my app here, if you see at the top of the Android Studio, is Yogesh Widget Demo. And this list of widgets here is alphabetical according to the name of the app. So I have to find an app called Yogesh Widget Demo. So you see it is at the bottom. You will see that I have some other ones that I played around with, but this is the demo, the app that we have just created, and this is the widget. So the way to add it is you click on it and hold, and then drop it somewhere. So this is the widget that we have just added, right? So what it did is, what Android did for us is it created a bunch of things. What we just said we want a 3x3 grid, right? So this is a 3x3 grid, and it put this text example. It gave the background color. Okay, Michelle is asking, how do I find my widget? Are you running it on the emulator?
Yes.
Okay, so what you do is in the emulator, find a blank area and click somewhere and press, basically, and hold it until this menu pops up. Also, maybe it depends on what the device is and what operating.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
No, I'm only getting the hello world screen and that's it.
Okay, then you click this home button at the bottom. So you see your home screen, the circle at the bottom.
Ah, now I see it. Thank you.
Okay, good. So now you'll be able to add your widget and it is going to say example. And to add the widget, you have to sort of press and hold again and then take it to wherever you want it to be dropped. Or like a drag and drop on the phone. So what happened here? Let's find out what all happened when we added that new widget. So one thing that is pretty obvious here is that there was only one file called main activity, and now we have another one called demo app widget. And within the layout, we had this activity main, which is the main, the activity that we were running, the app, which said hello world. And now we have another file called demo app widget. And this is your widget. This is exactly what you're seeing here in your widget. There's this blue background and the text example. You could change it. So this string, the text is coming from, okay, question for you guys. So the text of this app widget text, the text field, says here add string something. How do I change this text? Let's say instead of example, I want to change it to empty or something like that. Where would I
You can
go?
go to the string file and values and change it over there.
Perfect. So in values, you go to the string. So anything that you see with at string something, these are things that you will find under values in the strings. So there is a reason for this. What is the reason for this to have it? We'll just say empty because right now you can say whatever text you like. These things you're welcome to change. Now, why do we do it like this? Why do we have this strings file here?
Like sometimes if we want to do like a multiple language, for example, like we want English, we want Chinese, so that's a bad way to do so because you don't want manually to change the text input.
Perfect. That's a great answer, Harry. So basically, yeah. So here it's a reference to an item. You have values by default, they are in English. You could have values in Chinese, in French, in whatever language. And this is how all the apps you use, most of the international apps allow people to use it in their own language. So this is how they would do it. And this is one of the topics we're supposed to cover, localization, internationalization. Okay, so we changed that text. Now let's run it again and see what happens. Instead of example, I want to see empty now in this space, right? So whenever I run the app, it will open my app. But to see the widget, I just have to click on the home screen and you see it got changed to empty. So this is just a baby step. We know how to manipulate this. Now, let me go back to my presentation so that we follow the sequence. Okay, so we covered this part. We added a new project and we added a widget to it. Okay, use settings shown, add a bunch of files. It adds a bunch of files. We examined those files and we already went through this part. So we created a new widget and we did this. We added the widget to our home screen. Now we are starting to customize it. So the one part we already did is we changed the message when the widget has nothing to show, an empty message. Now what we want to do is, you see, our goal is to make a widget that shows a photo gallery that is like a stack of cards, playing cards, imagine, and you keep removing one card to reveal the next one. So that is what we want to do. And this functionality in Android, it comes from something called a stack view. And you can Google stack view and you will find what it is, how to use it. So this is the class documentation. This is not very helpful, but what you want is really how to use documentation of stack view. So if you were doing that, you would go to this place, for example, stack view example. It will show you that. So what we want right now is we want to use that stack view, and this is how we are going to do it. We'll examine the layout file, the widget layout, and we will add a stack view above the text view. So this is our app widget layout. And if you guys remember, we can toggle between XML and this design view by clicking one of these three buttons here. So the first one, that is a bunch of lines, shows us the XML, the code that builds what we see. So this is what it is. This is what our widget is made up of right now. It's a relative layout This is the background color. You see that color we have here, this bluish, is coming from this background. So I can change this. For example, I could make it instead of zero, let's say I want to make it white background. I could just go with FFF and it would become white. Or if I want a light red, light pinkish background, I could go with FDB. So this is RGB. Let's see what it does. I changed that. And this thing the app will come up. And you see the background color is no longer the bluish. It is this light pink background. And this text field has its own background color, you see. So it is still doing that. It's still got 09C. I could change this as well and it would be fine. So what we want now is, instead of showing a simple text, we want a stack of pictures, stack of anything really. So to do that, we'll add a stack view here. As soon as you add the stack view, let me do it again. So you see it. All I did is I started typing stack view and it gave me this option, auto completion. I will double click this and it is going to add the stack view, and the mandatory options for it will show up here. It won't close it. I'm going to close it here. And what it wants is values for the width and the height. What is the value we give it if we want it to occupy the entire space its container has available?
Match parent.
Correct. So we'll just say match parent, both width and height. Okay. And we should, one of the things, if you want to change this, for example, from your Java code, what you need is also an ID. Like this text view, for example, has an ID. We should add an ID to this. This is how you add an ID. You go Android :ID equal to, and this particular syntax is what we are going to repeat. Add plus ID, and then we give it an ID, whatever we want to call it. So we'll call it widget stack, let's say, right? So any idea why we did this add plus ID? What happens is, when you compile this, all the things that are in this XML, they need to be interpreted and made available to your Java code so it can refer to it. So when you say add plus ID, there is a class, you will see it again and again, called R. So it has objects in it called layout, ID, etc. And when you use that syntax, add plus ID, and then you give the ID to the component, your Java code then has access to it by saying r.id dot whatever it is. In Kotlin, which we used in one of our projects last semester, Kotlin is the new language that Google is now promoting for development of iOS apps. I'm sorry, for Android apps. In Kotlin, you don't need that r.id stuff. You can just refer to it directly. That's one of the simplifications. But to be able to access it in the Java code, like right here, see, r.id.appWidget.text, app widget text. This here app widget text is the ID of this. Without this add plus ID, you will not be able to reference it. Okay, so now we have added a stack view. Who can tell me what relative layout is doing here? So relative layout allows you to, whatever is inside it, to be, it allows those components to be relative to each other. Like you can say, okay, this is to the left of that, this is to the right, top, bottom, all those things. Here, the functionality we want is we want this to say empty when there is nothing. But if there are pictures, we don't want to show this empty. We just want it to go away. So what I want you to do is change this to frame layout, the relative layout. And now you run your app and see what happens. Let's see if something happens to the widget. Something did happen. It is still showing empty. It went to the top left. Okay, so there are two questions here I have for you, and I will leave it as for you to find out. I just answered this one, but you can look into it some more and understand why we changed the root layout to frame layout from relative layout. This is something that is a question for you. It is going to become a part of the homework you will get. And one other thing I want to show you, see, we changed this text to empty, right? Now let me get rid of this widget from here. Okay, it's gone. And I'm going to try to, oh, by the way, this is what I did. This is the app you're developing. This is what it will do. Set of pictures, it will allow you to scroll through them. And now let's see if we try to add that widget again. Mine was the last one. You see, it continues to say example. It doesn't say empty. I changed the text to empty, right? Why does it still say example? What happens when I add it? It becomes empty. This is the other question you need to investigate and answer. Why is it that it did not change over there? Okay. So this seems like a good point for us to take a break. 11:14, 11:15, let's say. So this is how we are going to do it as before. We will, around this time, we'll, when we are at a logical point in our lecture, could be a couple of minutes before or after, we will take a break of 20 minutes and then we will resume. So right now, 11:14, let's start at 11:35. We'll continue from here. Our job next is to make it so that instead of showing empty, we show a deck of cards of pictures. That is what we'll do when we come back. Okay, so have a break and I'll see you in 20 minutes.